Our first storyteller of the night, someone who I quite adore, someone who I've known since I moved to Portland, Oregon. Someone who once said that when I became rich and famous, he wanted to be my personal publicist. Well, I should be your personal drag queen. Please welcome to the SLANT stage, the first speaker, Jimmy Radasta.
Guten Tag, liebe Studenten. Entschuldigen Sie, dass ich spät bin. After 2 years of high school German and 1 year in college, I have to be honest, that is probably the only full sentence that I can still recite to this day. And I mainly remember that sentence because it was said by this college professor who was chronically 15 minutes late to every class. So like literally as we were picking up our books, getting ready to bolt because we thought class was canceled, he would burst in with a boisterous, Guten Tag, liebe Studenten. Entschuldigen Sie, dass ich spät bin. Translation, good day, dear students, sorry I'm late. So why was I so terrible at picking up German? I mean, as a teenage pop culture junkie, I had no problem with Spanish. Learned that from Madonna. ¿Quién es esa niña? Who's that girl? I learned my Japanese from Styx. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. And my French from Patti LaBelle. But I have to confess, when I enrolled in German as a junior at North Salem High School, the German language was the last thing on my mind. Like a lot of other sexually confused kids growing up in an uptight town, I was an overachiever with salutatorian aspirations, and I was just there to fulfill my college requirements. Plus, I heard the class was an easy A. Besides that, I was already preoccupied with another language, English. At the time, I had worked my way up to be copy editor of the student newspaper, and I started writing my own column, Radasta Rants and Rambles, which was like the poor man's Andy Rooney, but with acne. Meanwhile, I was studying for the SATs, so my first language was presenting enough challenges for me without having to learn another one. But what got me through those 2 years of high school German was my teacher, Mr. Phillips. He was a mischievous intellectual in his late 50s, fiercely passionate about German culture, with a quirky instruction style and a devilish gleam in his eye. Picture David Letterman meets Columbo. Mr. Phillips would help us memorize grammar rules with catchy rhymes like das, weil, ab, then, kick the verb down to the end. Or aus, bei, nicht, nach, sein, von, zu, dative case is good for you. He even won my respect by introducing the class to the German new wave band Trio, way before those Volkswagen commercials made you sick of hearing da, da, da. Mr. Phillips was unique as a North Salem teacher because you have to understand, Salem was a place that frowned on freaks. And I had no interest in being noticed as someone who's different at the time. Prior to my junior year, I totally played it safe. My only after-school activity involved sprinting. Not for sport, but to get out of there as quickly as possible. The moment the final bell rang, I would dart out the nearest door, racing past Auto Shop, where the headbangers caught on to my routine and would try to trip me. And I would plant myself in front of the television set to catch the last 39 minutes of my favorite soap opera, Santa Barbara. But my junior year was when I met some new alternative friends and started to emerge from my bubble. There were maybe 3 dozen bohemian types in North, or as the local newspaper called them in a widely mocked fashion spread, WOBs, wearers of black. Anyway, these were my people. So while I was starting to finally find my friend network, I still couldn't relate to most of the adults on staff. There was my chemistry teacher, Mr. Baylor, who ended every sentence with, on the thing there. There was my history teacher, Coach Hellier, who didn't even try to hide his favoritism of jocks and cheerleaders. And there was my trig teacher, Mrs. Belloc, who scolded the student newspaper for printing the words heck and dang. So amid that atmosphere, it was a relief to enter the classroom with Mr. Phillips, who didn't care if everyone thought he was weird. He wasn't weird. I knew we had achieved a special level of connection when Mr. Phillips invited me into the coveted teacher's lounge for a coffee break. He overshared with me about how he still loved his ex-wife. I had no idea how to respond. Clearly I was in no position to be dispensing relationship advice. He later thanked me for being such a good student, and he lowered his voice, "When the rest are such assholes." And that wasn't the only thing that he said in front of students that could have gotten him fired. Mr. Phillips it's interesting that 1988 politics has now come up twice this evening, but here we go. Mr. Phillips would often go on rambling tangents about things that were bothering him. And 1988 was an election year, and Oregon voters had just approved an anti-gay ballot measure that basically made it okay to fire state employees for being gay. So at the time, Mr. Phillips seemed terribly preoccupied with the gays. One time he told the class, "All Democrats are faggots." Then he turned his attention to the metrosexual media. GQ stands for gays and queers. They're the only people who read that rag. And another time, when I was lingering after class, he taught me how to say something naughty in German. And this is one of the only other full sentences I can still recite to this day. Schwule totschlagen. Translation, kill all fags. Now, when you spend your whole life in Salem, you learn to take the good with the bad. For every positive thing about Salem, there's something equally awful. For every idyllic Minto Brown Island, you should check it out, definitely. There's the gut, where neon customized lowrider pickups would cruise all weekend long. Salem is located, as you probably know, right along the 45th parallel, halfway between the equator and the North Pole, so mediocrity is wired into its DNA. I often neglect Salem to the neglected middle child, always complaining about not getting enough attention that goes to the older, sophisticated sibling, Portland, or the adorable baby of the family, Eugene. And right in between there's Salem, the Jan Brady of Oregon. So, as a people, we Salemites have learned to lower our expectations. But it's always perplexed me, how was it that one of my most respected, charming teachers was also a raging homophobe? Honestly, I don't remember being particularly hurt by his comments at the time because I hadn't even admitted to myself that I liked guys. But I came across these comments in my journals a few years back, and the story just never sat well with me. So when I was invited to share a story here tonight, it brought back all these conflicting memories about Mr. Phillips. And thank goodness for Facebook, I was able to reach out to an old English teacher who I friended a few years back. His name's Michael T. He always preferred to be called that instead of Mr. Smith. And I had seen that he's still in contact with Mr. Phillips, who's now in his 80s and senile. So I asked for his thoughts on the situation. He quickly wrote back and told me that Mr. Phillips had come from a wealthy family, but was raised by a nanny, so he was isolated from kids his own age. He served in the Air Force during the Korean War, became a teacher, and he arrived at North with little social skills. His wife dumped him while he was recovering from prostate cancer so she could run off with her riding instructor. Michael T. wrote, he was to a degree tone deaf where people were concerned. He was a true innocent, open-minded neophyte like a child, and this endeared him to kids. He was instinctively generous, but his attempts at humor were off the mark. And what you described were, indeed, attempts at humor. He was in the habit of mouthing such things ironically in the persona of a homophobic bore, but I assure you he was neither. He continued, one takes one's life in one's hands by adopting an ironic tone because kids are conditioned to assume sincerity on the part of their teachers, for good or ill. He was a poor judge of how he was being received. Had he known, he would not have offended you for the world. This was definitely not an explanation that I had considered, but it actually makes more sense to me that Mr. Phillips was just a Stephen Colbert type who was just way ahead of his time, as opposed to a borderline neo-Nazi character right out of Stephen King's apt pupil. And now that I'm an adult who can see that we were just both oddballs trying to find our way in Salem, this explanation actually reflects more clearly on the things that I'll remember the most about Mr. Phillips. Not the bruises from his fumbling attempts at social satire, but the confidence he gave me to not be afraid to stand out in a crowd. Thank you.